Welcome in, friends and future friends, to this episode of the Sports and the World podcast. Let me adjust my mic here. Color me, color me embarrassed. Can you hear me? Thank you. Uh, Welcome in, friends and future friends, to this episode of the Sports and the World podcast. I'm there. Hope of you are well and safe out there. Tonight, we'll have the guest Tanya Ray Fox, a friend of the show. I'm going to see if she's here because I sent the link via I inboxed her the link. Maybe I'll send it again. But nonetheless, thank you for joining me here. Lots to talk about. We talk about the NFL, the lead off, week 10 and week 11. What do we like there? NBA, a little NBA talk. Um, a little, there's plenty to talk about. The awards being held for the MLB awards are out, and I relatively agree with them, and I'll talk about why more. But let's just jump right on in and talk about the National Football League. Let's talk about week let's talk about week 10 before we get to week 11. You know, uh, look, you know, all I gotta say is that listen, we start with Thursday night, Denver 10-7, and listen, I really like Denver, but I have a huge issue with Denver, and no, it's not because Sean Payton's the head coach. Denver winning 10-7. I understand these divisional games get close. I totally get that. They're 8-2, and they're atop the AFC West. But Chargers are right there, coming up their win against Pittsburgh. Um, when you look at the numbers, and this is where I guess I lean in and talk about when we talk about NFL teams, we talk about contenders, pretenders at this point of the season, and we look at Denver. Denver's defense is fantastic. They're listen, they're third in points allowed, and they allow the fourth fewest first downs. They allow the fewest net passing yards. Like this is a very good defense. This is a very very good defense. Let's be super clear. Let me lean in by saying that I think they're a fantastic defense. My core issue is with the offense. Oh, and wait, I've already started the show, but I can always stop talking because that's what I do. And we have the amazing, as advertised, it's the amazing, my friend of the show, resume 2 pages long, maybe three. It's probably longer than that. I don't know. It's the amazing, it's my friend, it's Tanya Ray Fox. And how are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I started the show and I was going into a tangent about the Denver Broncos when you came
Oh my
in.
gosh. Well, there's a lot to say.
Yeah, and I was simply saying is that I hear a lot of people talk about, but when I do previews of the games, like certain games. I don't do every game. If that's the case, it'd be exhausting. But when I do preview, when I look at the Denver Broncos, yeah, are they 8-2? Sure. Bill Parker, you are what your record says. Absolutely. I'm not going to argue with one of the greatest coaches in the. I'm not going to argue with the quote. But if you peel back the numbers, you peel back some of the games, I can make a case that especially I could argue they've been a few plays away from being a 500 football team.
I mean,
And
they're weirdly a few plays away from being like a 1 win or 2 win team or like a 9 or 10 win team. It's very weird.
yeah, and like I said, I think their defense is fantastic. I think Vance Joseph and the job he does great defensively. And listen, if people are going to say that, oh, you're a Falcons fan, you're going to knock on Sean Payton, maybe. Listen, we all have our biases, all right? We all have our biases. I have my own personal bias against Sean Payton. It's personal. It'll be. it'll be like an epilogue of one of these podcasts where I just go on for like a half hour. But it's the offense where I'm very very concerned with, and they're kind of like middle of the road in points scored per game. It's like Bo Nix. I don't hate him, but I think I don't know. Like I said, they're atop the AFC West. Great. I think it's a tough division. I think the Chargers are there. Kansas City's always there. And if you're a Raiders fan, I completely apologize. But you play football. You're professional. I don't want to knock the professionalism, but I'm here to get your thoughts on. I do have on the Broncos, the division, Sean Payton, anything that comes to.
For the AFC West.
Yeah, or you talk about the Broncos. You can talk about the Broncos, the AFC West, anything
I've
that.
talked so much already about Sean Payton and how much I hate him. So like, you know, if you want to see that, you can. It's out there. But yeah, I mean, I think that the Broncos, in terms of the teams that are at the top of the AFC, are the weakest team. When you have a side of the ball that's performing as like inconsistently um and often like really poorly for entire stretches of the game for 3.5 quarters or 3 quarters or whatever it might be, you have to take that into account. It's not how close games are. Games can be close. The Chiefs won a lot of close games last year. And then ended up in the Super Bowl. But they're also a proven team. They've proven that they can get over those kinds of humps. And also, neither side of the ball looked as inept as the Broncos offense does for large chunks of games. And also, when you have an elite defense, it will get you through the regular season in a way that I think people don't super realize. I think being able to, I mean, Bo Nix clearly is cold-blooded in the sense that he doesn't let the fact that they're playing poorly affect his ability to continue to perform at the end of games when they have opportunities. That's a good thing. It's a good to have that kind of mental edge. I think it's something that I think that there's elite quarterbacks who have that and there's elite quarterbacks who don't, like Jalen Hurts has that, there are other great quarterbacks who have that quality. He's just not as talented. He's not there yet in terms of his performance, but you can't look at the Broncos and say like, oh, they're a fraud. I think that they're the worst 8-2 team I've seen in a really long time. I don't think that that's an argument. And I think that the offensive issues are going to bite them in the butt when they're in the playoffs, but it's the regular season. So
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's what I don't. I guess I don't want to use the strongest of the word as flawed, but it's
oh no,
like
they're
deep.
flawed. They're deeply flawed. Like, I mean, I think you absolutely can use that word.
Yeah, that's like fraud or flawed. I mean,
Oh,
it's
fraud. Okay.
it's okay. You're probably right. I don't know. Sometimes I say words and then I look back and say, oh, I said that, and then as I'm eating dinner, I'm like, oh, I said that. I'm like, oh well, I'm gonna go over and eat my sandwich like I was doing. I'll go back to eat my sandwich, watch wrestling. Um, but I think to the point like they're flawed. I do like I don't want to say they're frauds, but it's like to your point, defense can carry you as far, but when you start playing in the postseason, I think the offense has to kick in at some point. Specifically, like Cortland Sutton doesn't feel like he exists on the offense, or like I think the receiver Troy Franklin leads the team in targets, and it's like, well, who's Troy Franklin? Well, listen, if
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, but nonetheless, people are like, well, how do you lead up with Denver? It's a Sean Payton era. If I can point out a flaw about Sean Payton, I
Well,
don't
Sean
waste the
Payton, yeah.
opportunity.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's always been super overrated. And the fact that it's like sort of the opposite, like in New Orleans, he was being carried by a roster of really great offensive players and Drew Brees. And he was an okay offensive player, like he was an okay and good offensive coach. I don't think he was a genius the way that people tried to sell him as. And he also had an awful defense. Now he has an incredible defense. And without a, first ballot Hall of Fame passer playing indoors, his offense just can't really hang. So it's sort of speaking for itself.
yeah, and it's like, as him being the division, being a Falcons fan, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's good, but I put him in the category of and it's a great transition. I put him in the same category that I do kind of John Harbaugh to a certain extent, where it's like you're riding the Super Bowl on the resume. And I've said some things about John Harbaugh, and I know you've said some things about him. And what I've said about John Harbaugh is, and I think I said it last year when people in Pittsburgh were calling for Mike Tomlin's job. Like, oh, Mike Tomlin's terrible. And then I say, when you put the resumes together, the only core difference between John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin is the playoff record. That's it. There to me, we want to run Mike Tomlin out, who's never had a when he did like out, he doesn't have a franchise quarterback. He went to he had like Doug Dodges. He had Russell Wilson. He never had outside of Big Ben. He's never had a franchise quarterback. As for John Harbaugh, you have Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, he went
And
from Flacco, who was an above average quarterback, to Lamar Jackson, who's like going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And Mike Tomlin he's had Ben Roethlisberger, and while they had Ben Roethlisberger, they were really good. They would win playoff games. They would make AFC Championship games. Then Big Ben was old and huge and couldn't move and was no longer a franchise quarterback in terms of skill, just only name, in name only for the last couple of years. Still better than what they've had, but, and then it's been what? I mean, Ben Roethlisberger retired 5 years ago, right? Like, was it maybe more? I don't know. I feel like it was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it does. It's probably a little bit longer because it feels like a little bit longer. But for 5 years, 5 years.
Yeah. So like that entire time they've been putting together like a joke of a quarterback roster, and for their first round pick at the position was Kenny Pickett. Like, it's just been really tough. And so when people say, you can't criticize John Harbaugh and not criticize Mike Tomlin for the same thing. And I'm like, I can give him Lamar Jackson and tell me, then we'll talk then. Give him Lamar. And then people are like, well, you shouldn't need a first ballot, MVP type quarterback to play. I'm like, I don't think he does. You said John Harbaugh. I'm telling you the difference between him and John Harbaugh. The difference is John Harbaugh has the most talented quarterback in the NFL with 2 MVPs, should be 3 MVPs. That dude's a beast. Like Mike Tomlin's rolling out 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers. So, you know what I mean? Like that. So fine. Give him literally any above average quarterback. Give him Drake May. Give him whoever you want. But don't tell me that John Harbaugh has not been set up for success in a different way. And by the way, Mike Tomlin still stays consistently competitive in the division, even without that. So,
yeah, and like I said last year,
it's not just Lamar Jackson because they got Joe Burrow in Division 2. So he has to compete with both those quarterbacks. The Browns have an incredible defense every year. Like, that's a tough division.
Yeah, and the thing is, and to your point, and it's not like I said, I remember last year I went back and I usually don't watch myself back, and I watched back at what I said, and I was like, man, I thought I was being aggressive, and I said no, because I was tired of the narrative where I see people want to run Mike Tomlin out of town, and I'm like, no, if you're gonna give me that argument, then I can give you the John Harbaugh, because he literally has the best quarterback in football. And what's on the resume? And Mike Tomlin he took Russell Wilson and he had Russell Wilson, Justin Fields on his roster. 2 quarterbacks, no longer there, obviously. But like, he had Russell Wilson starting football games. And now he said he went older, and now he's got 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers. And somehow he's been constantly successful. And that's why I always say coaching in the NFL, I look at a little bit deeper than no disrespect to Major League Baseball or the NBA, because there's great coaches and managers there. But I'm like, if we're out here talking about Mike Tomlin, then we got to talk about John Harbaugh, because he has Lamar Jackson. And I used to get tired of the narrative, oh, Lamar can't. Well, who's been his head coach the whole time? It's like, it's easy. I can say, oh, we can blame Lamar, but listen, if that's the argument you want to make, sure. But I also make the argument that why hasn't John Harbaugh What has he
Also,
done with
they
Lamar?
haven't given Lamar any weapons. I mean, he finally got Derrick Henry, and everyone was like, "Oh, now look, he's got a Derrick Henry. Let's give Derrick Henry credit for it." Derrick Henry had a great season because Lamar is an incredible runner, and he opened up all these kinds of like. Please shut up. I can't with you. Watch football for once in your life. Just actually watch the games. Watch what John Harbaugh does in the sidelines. Watch what that coaching staff actually does. Watch how they scheme for him. Watch how they like shy away from certain like scheme aspects because he doesn't have the fucking wide receivers to throw to. Watch that stuff. Then come talk to me. And then if you're, when it comes to Mike Tomlin, you do not fire the longest tenured head coach in the NFL unless he's been given every chance to succeed. And if he's not, there is no plan for franchise quarterback. The most important position in football is the quarterback. When you've got him cycling through journeymen and random rookies, you don't fire somebody under those conditions because that's like we're talking about an elite head coach. This isn't Brian Daboll, right? Like Brian Daboll hasn't been able to make it work with these different situations. And also the quarterback that they let go is now doing pretty damn well in Indy. And they've got Jackson Dart. He's playing well. There's, like they see the future and they see that he is not the guy to set things up for success for this dude that they think is going to be their franchise quarterback. That's not the case for the Steelers. Like Brian Daboll is not Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is going to have a gold jacket. Please relax,
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I've said the same thing, and people say, yeah. And it's like, I got tired of the narrative. I really did, because I'm like, I'm not going to let you out here and just disrespect Mike Tomlin. Like, this man hasn't been out here with an organization, and he's only the third head coach in, 1970? And all three, every coach in that franchise has a Super Bowl, including Mike Tomlin. And no, no. And I get tired of the narrative. I got tired because people were defending John Harbaugh instead of talking about Mike Tomlin. I'm like, the internet is free. It's like you can go to Pro Football Reference. You can see their numbers. The only core difference is the playoff, and that's just because, to your point, Mike Tomlin had journeyman, no stability at the most important position in the NFL, and yet he's still been consistently successful. John Harbaugh has Lamar Jackson, and we're not going and we're flipping the narrative and saying, I'm not blaming Lamar Jackson. I'm blaming John Harbaugh. The last time I checked, he was a head coach. And then if you look at last season, to your point, with Greg Roman essentially let Lamar be exactly who Lamar Jackson is. That's all you need to do with a great quarterback is let your quarterback be him. And he had to prove that he could always throw the ball. If you watched him at Louisville, I knew he could always throw the ball. But people say, "Oh, he's a running quarterback." I never heard that about Josh Allen had just as many. Never heard that about him. And so I guess before I skip gears, before I go off on a tangent out in space, it's to me it's the narrative that we talk about quarterbacks and how we talk about Lamar Jackson. It feels different, and it's like this man should have another MVP in his trophy case. And I look at this division and I'm like, oh yeah, Pittsburgh, like Baltimore could come back because of Lamar Jackson, not because of John Harbaugh. I'll give you a clue, not because of John Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
Respectfully, it's because of Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, he reminds me of like when Carmelo Anthony was at Syracuse and the year they won the national championship. Carmelo just said, "We're just put me on the back. Trust me, we're going to win it," and they did. That's Lamar's the type of guy he can put the team on his back, no matter how boring this defense has been, as bad as it's been. You have Lamar Jackson. Yeah, they have Zay Flowers, but look how long it took to get something to build around him.
Dave Flowers is a number 2 receiver. They don't have a number 1 receiver.
Sure, sure. But my thing is that they started bringing in players, and now all of a sudden, Lamar's been doing it with. I don't want to say duct tape and I don't want to say with duct tape and super glue, but it's like it wouldn't shock me if Baltimore came back and won the division. It wouldn't shock me. It really would. And it's not a knock on Pittsburgh, who I think is very good, but Lamar is
They're
that
fine.
type of player.
Yeah, they're fine.
And yeah, it's like I look at Lamar and go, that's just it's different. It's sticking because I love talking about quarterbacks. We'll stick on the quarterback train here. Let's head up north. Let's talk about your beloved Patriots. I know we're not going to talk about my we're not going to talk about the South because that's I did that earlier and it got me very upset for a multitude of reasons. But so I look at New England and I just listen. I love Mike Vrabel and it's like one of those ESPN like I said, what if I told you that Mike Vrabel was the head coach of Tennessee Titans and they had the nerve to fire him? And it's like it, even when he got fired, I'm like, he's he's probably the best coach they had maybe since Jeff Fisher. If I'm thinking of anybody that was better, Winston Hunt wasn't better. Malone. So I'm going through I'm like, he led y'all to like who like he did no stability at quarterbacks. And somehow you let him walk. He goes to New England, and now they're atop the AFC. Um, I can go on and talk about Mike Vrabel and the job he's doing because I talked earlier about the importance of coaching, and I think the way that he's turned around I think he's turning around not just record wise but culture wise because it felt like from the trend it felt like post Belichick the whole thing with Gerard Mayo. That's once again that's another diatribe I could go down because but it felt like after that and then you bring in Mike Vrabel. It was about kind of revamping the culture, obviously revamping the roster and all of that jazz. And Drake May looking good. You know, for once people like quarterbacks from North Carolina don't look good. Mitchell Trubisky kind of ruined it. Like quarterbacks from UNC didn't look good. Drake May said no. Drake May has looked fantastic. The team looks fantastic. I could talk about them all day. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on Vrabel, the Patriots, and what do you think has made the difference this season as opposed to what do you think is I had the question in my head right. What do you think is has changed this season from last season to this season and what we're seeing now in terms of is it Vrabel? Is it the culture? Just from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, culture is a big thing, and trust between like the coach and ownership is a big thing. The Gerard Mayo thing was him sort of being set up to fail from the start. He was always meant to be an interim coach. They didn't invest in him roster wise the way that they should have. All those things. And Vrabel's a better coach. I mean, he's a better coach, and he had the same level of understanding of the system and like the culture of the Patriots that Gerard Mayo did. And he just is a more seasoned, more experienced guy. And his philosophy works really well with the players that they've put together. It seems like he worked with Elliot Wolf, the GM, to build a roster that kind of works for his style. Drake May is now in his second year, so you have a more developed quarterback with, with that's just closer to their ceiling. He's not a rookie who's figuring it out midseason anymore. They add an elite wide receiver. It's Stephon Diggs is the first time they've had an elite wide receiver on the team in so long. I can't even remember. I really don't remember the last time they had. I mean, truly, like they've never had someone with that level of talent since Randy Moss. And like when you've got someone who's the best toe tap catcher in the NFL, he's one of the best to ever do it. He can make sideline catches that nobody else in the league can make. And you improve that position in a way it just did not exist for, I mean, nearly 2 decades. And then you start improving on offensive and the defensive lines. The defense on the Patriots has always been good. They've always had defensive coaches. They've always had good defensive coaches. So it's always been good. Last year, Christian Gonzalez was hurt. Christian Gonzalez is healthy now. They have a kicker who is hitting their kicks. Like the kicking was awful last year. Everything's improved. And some of that is just investing in the roster. and getting healthy guys back. And a lot of it is Vrabel being a better, more seasoned coach with a established culture, and Drake May getting to kind of develop into the player that he clearly can be. And so, yeah, it's obviously like a lot of people are surprised that they're this good. I think part of it is just that the league has a lot of parity in it this year. Like there's just not a lot of great teams. So a really good team being ahead of schedule makes sense, because it's not like there's, the Chiefs they're having a down year. The Bills are having a down year. The Ravens are having a down year. So this was the perfect year for the Patriots to overachieve a little bit. In a year that was supposed to be like, hey, let's see if we can make a playoff run. Like, let's see if we can get into the playoffs. That would be cool. And now it's like, oh, they're like a Super Bowl contender. That's ahead of schedule. But a lot of it has to do with just where the rest of the AFC is at in terms of like who was supposed to be competitive. Joe Burrow is out, right? So it's like, okay, well, this is the opportunity being handed to them. They have 2 losses, right? So the Colts have 2 losses. The Broncos have 2 losses. Tonight they play the Jets. So unless things go horribly wrong and it's a trap game, which Thursday Night Football can be, right? They're either going to be 9-2 or 8-3. They're still going to be near the top of the AFC. And there's maybe there's probably 4 teams in the league right now, maybe 5 that you'd say are like more likely to make the Super Bowl at this point. And most of them are in the NFC.
Yeah, I was doing it in my head, and I'm like, okay, like, and I'm thinking but I'm thinking, 3/4, all of them are in. Yeah, you know, I think to your point about teams being ahead of schedule, I think a lot of, like, to your point from the AFC has always it felt like, if the Chiefs are having the down years, like it opens it up, and
They
like,
haven't had any down years. That's the thing, is like they haven't. They've made the Super Bowl every year except for that Cincinnati Bengals year. So like, now what? Like they really don't look like they're going to, never write them out, right? Like this could be a New York Giants win the Super Bowl at like 10-6 kind of year. But like they got to get it going, right?
yeah, yeah, and I think I said beginning of the season, I said they give me, like, especially how they started the season. I said I could see them potentially getting it in the wild card, potentially, because, like, for the say the Chiefs having a down year, it's hard to say, but it really looks kind of feels that way, and it's like if they
Yeah, I don't
make
think they're
it,
going to miss the playoffs. I think they'll find a way to make it in the playoffs, but
yeah,
they won't have that home field advantage, which is really helpful.
yeah, because like I said, I don't see them missing. So I said I could see them as a wild card, but it's because listen, when you have Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, you have that quarterback coach. When you have that tandem, you're asking me to write off. Like you're asking me to say the Chiefs aren't going to make like, I can't say it. It's like one of those things that I'll see it when I believe it. Like that's always been my stance. Is like until the wheels absolutely fall off, Andy Reid potentially retires, then maybe.
Oh, if Andy Reid retires, that's over. You don't keep a dynasty going with another head coach. That's not a
Yeah,
thing.
because it's like,
Um,
I'm like, go ahead.
you know, yeah, no, but Andy Reid, as far as I'm concerned, whenever you have a dynasty that's built around a head coach quarterback combo, which it is, you can't really remove either piece unless you get weirdly lucky, unless you start creating a quarterback situation like the Packers where they just go from one good quarterback to another. Yeah, you're screwed. But like I said, the AFC is kind of like all over the place right now. So there's no reason that the Chiefs couldn't still make it in. They don't care about being kind of bad or winning like crappy games or whatever. Like it hasn't happened a ton, but they have that like mentality of like, we'll just we'll make it in the playoffs and figure it out. Um, I just think that the teams that I just don't think they're as dynamic as they usually are, and so uh, they're not that fun to watch. But also, I don't think anyone in the AFC West is fun to watch. Like I don't think the Broncos aren't the Broncos aren't great. The Chargers are awful. Like I'm sorry. Like I know they're good, but they're not fun and they're not reliable. They're all those teams have no idea what they're doing. Like every game that they win, you're like, okay, I guess cool.
Yeah. And then you look at poor Justin Herbert. It's like the offense. It's like I don't know how this man is standing up after every play. It feels like he's getting hit. And when you lose a guy
He's like
like Joe,
he's 7 feet tall. That's
yeah, yeah, yeah. As being tall, tall people like listen. I tell people when you get hit, like it gets different. Cause listen, people tried to tackle me, and I'm like, that's not a great idea.
yeah.
Like even like,
Yeah. How
oh,
tall are you again?
6'4".
6'4". That's right. You're the exact right quarterback height. The ideal quarterback height, 6'4".
Yeah, it's like oh, my weight's so husky. So I'm like, oh yeah. And actually, I would always try to be the quarterback. So I'm like, I'm not trying to out here running routes. I'm not. No, we're not doing it
Yeah.
because I'm gonna go home be icing my knees for like no. Just let me quarterback. If you want to blitz me, cool. I'm just gonna just plow you over, which actually happened once where they handed me the. I'm like, who's calling the plays? It's like it. I feel like Adam Gase was calling the plays. But anyway, like, oh, just hand me the ball. It's pretty obvious. And he tried to tackle me and I'm like, he was on the ground like, oh, is he all right? He was okay. I told him, listen, I was trying to be nice about it. I told you don't. I'm not saying let me score, but listen, if three or four of you get on me, just concede, blow the whistle. I'm not trying to hit this ground because it's gonna feel no, no. But anyway, that's just why I'm against me playing tackle football without the pads and the helmets. It's like our generation. It's like, oh, what about safety? We made it okay. We made it okay. We made it okay. But stick with the NFL. Um, I think the last week show, 2 shows ago, I kind of gave my thoughts on the award races so far, and and I thought, listen, I think the one ever fluctuating one is like MVP. Like for Coach of the Year, I had like Shane Steichen or Mike Vrabel. I kind of had, and I would also kind of throw in, if you want to throw in Mike McDonald for Seattle as well, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that either. Um, I'm just curious to see your thoughts on it, in terms of Coach of the Year, MVP. I think Offensive Player of the Year, to me, it feels obvious. But I have I can make a case that, we could step away from the quarterback narrative for MVP. Not saying it's not gonna happen. But it's like it feels the MVP award is a quarterback driven award, and that's why there's the Offensive Player of the Year award to kind of compensate. But that's a whole different Twilight Zone tangent there. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on who's your MVP, like your Coach of the Year, your MVP, or any other awards that you would feel.
Yeah. Well, oh, gosh, see, this is what happens when I don't put my thing on silent. Um, Coach of the Year is the worst award in all of sports. It's bullshit. They award it to the wrong coach every single year. They award it to the coach that's like, "Oh, wow, I'm surprised you actually were good this year on a team that we didn't think was going to be as good." It's that award. It's why Kevin Stefanski has two. It's why Ron Rivera has two. And, coaches like Kevin O'Connell and these other dudes have none. And I mean, like Sean McVay should be coach of the year so many years. Like Belichick should have been it. Andy Reid should be it. And it never is. So I actually don't care about that award at all. If I were to guess who they are going to give it to, it seems like Mike Vrabel. It feels like because there's this like surprise element to how good they are. The Colts have been on the precipice of being really good. They've been a quarterback away. Their roster has been very good for a while. They're a quarterback away. I think people are more surprised by the Patriots. So people are going to be like, ooh, the shock factor. Um, and yeah, so that would be my guess of who they're going to give it to. Uh, they also it's just like it's a little bit he's like a more fun coach to give it to if the NFL is trying to like make it fun. Like Shane Steichen's just a guy. He's a guy. He's cool. There's nothing wrong with Shane Steichen. But like Vrabel's a personality, you know. So I guess I hate that award so much. Like I just truly hate it. Like if I revamped it entirely and went back, that's the award where I wish I could go back and just rewrite the whole history of it. But for whatever reason, they cannot seem to figure out what the standards are for that award. For MVP, like I mean, the MVP is Jonathan Taylor. Drake May being the highest in MVP odds right now is purely because the quarterback play is down this year. Like it is. And the usual suspects, Patrick Mahomes not having a crazy season. He's been good. Like Patrick Mahomes has been perfectly good this year. And better than last year, quite honestly. Lamar was hurt. Lamar is like, you know, now if Lamar goes on and they win their final 10 games and make the playoffs, the conversation changes if he keeps playing, like performing at a specific level. But we're going to go off of right now. Josh Allen's having a down year. So then you're going over, and the only other person that's in the conversation with Drake May is Matthew Stafford. And, you know, I don't look at that team and think, oh my God, Matthew Stafford's carrying them. Like, please. He's incredible. You don't have to tell me Matthew Stafford's incredible. I've been on it since he was in Detroit. I love Matthew Stafford. The fact that he's this good at this age where people thought he might have fallen off a cliff. Love to see it. I remember when people said that about Brady. I love when these players continue to perform at a level because they're keeping their bodies in shape and they're doing everything. And I love what Matthew Stafford's doing. He's not the MVP. Like the Rams have an excellent offense with a bunch of really great players, and he is utilizing them. Drake May is like the most important player on the Patriots offense. And also he is still making young player mistakes. The last two close games, I mean, I'm sure you watched the Falcons game. They tried to blow that game, you know. They almost did the same thing against the Buccaneers. The defense has stepped up in those games tremendously. And Drake May, like, you know, against the Bucs, he threw a pick in the end zone, gave the ball back to the Buccaneers. It was nearly a disaster. That does not mean he's not incredible. That does not mean you look at that completion percentage and how well he's performing and his downfield passing and think, oh, he's not the guy. He's absolutely the guy. Like Drake May is the guy. He's him. I'm glad he's in the conversation. But what Jonathan Taylor is like on a tear in a way that there are no quarterbacks that are doing for their team, in my opinion, outside of potentially Lamar Jackson down the stretch, that Jonathan Taylor is doing for the Colts. His pace right now is 26 touchdowns and 2,000 yards. That's everybody wants to talk about Saquon last year. He had nowhere near 26 touchdowns. He had like 13. You're telling me we're going to have a 2,000 yard 20. We're getting into LaDainian Tomlinson numbers now. If he stays on pace, we're getting close to that record for touchdowns, which I think is 28. And in 2025, with the way quarterback play has, like, even since the LT years, right? Like running backs don't get those kind of numbers very often anymore. You cannot have a running back who especially if they continue at this pace, only have, 2, 3, 4, 5, if they stay in the 3 or 4 loss range for the season, they're at the top of the AFC and he has 2,000 yards and 26 touchdowns and you don't give him the MVP. That's an embarrassment. Last year, Lamar and Josh Allen were playing crazy football. No one's doing that this year. So, yeah, it was an MVP. Like, when people say it's an MVP, a quarterback award, it's generally because there's a quarterback who's as good as the running back, as the best running back, right? There is no quarterback playing as good at their position right now as Jonathan Taylor is playing at his. Point blank.
Yeah, and listen, to bring up the Falcons again, it wasn't planned, but watching them over in Berlin, and I just saw that man just an improved Falcons defense at that. So let me preface that. And I said to myself, this man looks like every great running back I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that Jonathan Taylor cannot do on that football field outside throwing it, and he can probably throw it to. This man can. If you take Jonathan Taylor out of that offense, what is the Colts?
Yeah.
Like Daniel Jones is great. They have great pieces, but Jonathan Taylor is the guy, is the straw that stirs the drink in that offense. And to be in the conversation statistically with LaDainian Tomlinson and to have 20 plus in an era, to your point, where quarterbacks are out here slinging 40 touchdowns like it's nothing, and he's out here about to get 20, eclipse a record that I potentially thought, in terms of the running back, given the, how I'm like, no one's ever going to touch that. Like, no one. It's kind of like how I feel about like how Ripken Street, like no one's ever going to touch it. It's like there's certain like records I feel like no one's going to touch it because the game has changed. And what Jonathan Taylor is doing at the pace he's doing it as well.
Mm-hmm.
With a couple of 3 touchdown games like it's nothing. And these are just not like him in the red zone getting these touchdowns. Some of them are some long runs. So he's not like how you bring in like the running back specialist. No, my guy is breaking out on long runs. It felt like he's been doing that since he was at, I believe, Wisconsin. All you do is hand the ball off in the backfield. Let Jonathan Taylor figure out the rest. He makes the offense the way it is. He minimizes, takes the pressure off of Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones can go over the top because of what Jonathan Taylor does on the run game. So if you're Shane, to me, that's Jonathan Taylor. That's sort of a game changer this season. To your point, like when we talk about quarterbacks, it's like Drake May is great. And we're talking about like Sam Darnold. We're talking about like no disrespect to Sam Darnold whatsoever, but it feels different.
I mean,
And
yes, I love that. I love that Sam Darnold's in the conversation. Like, I love that he has been incredible. I love that he has had this like weird renaissance between the Vikings and the Seahawks last year, or the Vikings last year and the Seahawks now. I love to see it. I also can tell. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba is also in the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year.
Mhm.
So now what are we? Oh, are we gonna do the like? We're gonna have both those players from the same. Just you guys, we're gonna have the MVP and the Offensive Player of the Year. Like, come on,
yeah, I don't know. It's a point. I haven't been ignoring you, Chad. I apologize. Me and Tanya having a great. We're just yapping. We're yapping and having a good time. I almost feel like I'm ignoring you. Maybe not. We have Jeremy Davis. The only excuse I'll give John says that he plays for the Colts. All right.
What does that mean in terms of excuse?
I have no idea. I just
But
leave
like,
it at that.
yeah. But I will say, like, I think the other thing about Jonathan Taylor is just like he has consistently been like, I think people forget that he's been doing this. He's had a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns. Like this is just like the escalation. This is just the next level of what he's capable of. But he's been like a little bit overlooked in the conversation, and I would also just really love for somebody to get the credit at that position that they deserve, especially if the Colts, if the Colts continue on at this pace. They don't have to be the number one seed in the AFC, for him to, it just, I liked Saquon's season last year. It never swayed me enough to think he should win it over Lamar. And it's not just because I'm a Lamar homer. Like, I know everybody knows he's like my favorite quarterback. He's my favorite football player. But that season was insane. Josh Allen probably should have won it over Saquon as well.
Yeah, yeah. To your point, yeah. Like the Saquon, like offensive player of the year, sure. But if you look at like
He did
Lamar,
win. He must have won OPOY last year, right? Saquon?
yeah, I think he did. Yeah,
He had to have. Yeah. It's
and
all about like, are you the reason your offense looks the way it looks, right?
pretty much,
And
yeah.
and to me, all those yards were amazing, but 13 touchdowns, they're not going to give a running back I think it was 13. I don't want to misquote, but I'm pretty sure he had 13 rushing touchdowns. They're not going to give a running back an MVP in 2025 with that. Like you got to break like the low 20s. You have to.
Yeah.
That's just they're not going to give it to you with sub 15 rushing touchdowns. It's not happening.
Right. If 20, I feel like 2021, we can have a conversation. That's what we can have the conversation. Anything kind of like 19, but like if you don't like that 20 mark, it feels in the air like in terms of how we look at running backs. It's like if you do that and the way how the game has changed, then the conversation is different. And if the pace that Jonathan Taylor is going, there's a case.
I'm trying to see what
And
because like when was the last time there was even because rushing touchdowns in a single season. So LaDainian Tomlinson set the record at 28 in 2006. And
I
there's
think
been like, I mean, it was Sean Alexander.
Commander, I
I
was gonna
mean,
say, I remember the year yeah,
nobody's broken. So LeGarrette Blunt in 2016 had 18. Nobody's broken that
because I
since
definitely remember. I
then.
remember,
So like holy moly. I mean, 18. Raheem Mostert had 18 in 2023. That's kind of that's like the modern high right now is 18 in this era is kind of where running backs top out.
yeah,
And so if you get 24 or 25 and no one's hit that since the early 2000s.
yeah. 'Cause like I said, I definitely remember the year Sean Alexander did. Because I remember because of Madden. He was on the Madden cover. That's how I remember.
Yeah,
Like
it was the year before. It was that crazy stretch because it was the year before LaDainian. Like he set the record and then LT beat it.
yeah, like I said, I remember saying like Sean Alexander, no one's gonna break that. And then LT's like, listen, I hate to disappoint, but hate to be that guy. But this
Yeah.
Chargers offense is pretty good, and I'm not saying I'm the guy. We have Gates, I'm like I'm not trying to be that guy, but it's like, listen, LT, listen, you have your gold jacket. I'm not going to sit here and question anything you do. But
No.
and let's see, we have more. We have my guy Berto saying valid point. He said, I feel like overall the usual dominance from NFL offenses aren't quite there. It's very much all over the place this year with a few exceptions. Yeah, I think it's a very fair. My guy Berto, shout out watching amazing guy, Falcons guy. Listen, we're not talking about the Falcons season. There's good things to talk about. There's some things that
No one wants to talk about the Falcons. No one wants to
no,
do that.
no. Okay, I know. As a fan, I know. Listen, it's not like you. I'd be like, oh, how dare? Like, nope. No
No,
resistance for me.
I would talk about the Falcons, if it was a Falcons show, obviously. But when you have
Yeah,
when the floor is open to more interesting teams,
yeah.
but
To
I
be
mean,
fair,
there really are very few offenses that are clicking on all cylinders. It's the Seahawks. It feels like the Rams. Um, the Colts are pretty good. The Patriots are pretty good. I would say the AFC offenses that are the best offenses are not as good as the NFC offenses right now because, you know, um, what the Seahawks and the Rams are doing just feels a little bit more prolific. It feels a little bit more high powered.
yeah,
But you know, they're also these are teams that I think are kind of I mean, especially with the Seahawks, like I need Sam Darnold to get over the choking he does at the end of these seasons. Like I need to see it because like Sam, he did the whole seeing ghosts last year at the end of the Vikings season. He truly just like fell off a cliff. It was crazy to watch because he looked incredible for most of the season, and and part of me is like, wow, Sam Darnold looks like a different quarterback when he has Justin Jefferson and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Who would have thought?
Hmm.
You're like, duh, like,
Yeah. So
you
you're like,
know,
huh? Yeah. Like,
and not even just Justin Jefferson because they have got Jordan Addison, like they've got a crazy wide receiving core in Minnesota, and the Seahawks are kind of replicating that. I will say, Clint Kubiak is having that guy as an offensive coordinator, I have a team I think he should be the offensive coordinator of in my head. But now he's in Seattle and I'm sad.
Yeah, yeah. Clint. Yeah, I think I talked about him earlier on the team that we're not going to talk about. I brought him up, and I just look at the job he's done, and I'm like, listen, there's a Seattle. Listen, Seattle's offense is cooking, and it's because of Clint Kubiak.
Well, and
And it's just
wasn't it Gary Kubiak? It was Gary Kubiak that was the coach of that like crazy Broncos offense for like a year or
yeah,
two, right? Well, it was
yeah,
John Fox, and then he was on he was the one they lost the Super Bowl
hmm
to the Seahawks, and then
yeah,
they hired Kubiak, and that
yeah.
offense I imagine in 24. I can't remember the Broncos 2014
Was
offense.
that?
It must have still been pretty good because because by 2015 Peyton fell off a cliff, but I feel like it happened really fast. They must have still been really good in 2014.
Yeah, 'cause I'm
They
thinking,
didn't
was
make the
that the
AFC
year?
Championship game though.
I think was that the year he threw 40 touch? Was that the year with Kubiak that he threw 40? I'm trying to because
No,
one
I
year
think
he did, or was it?
he threw like
Oh,
55 touchdowns.
50. Well, 40 was a rough number. The other 15 I was probably,
Yeah.
I was probably like, hey, we only have 15 touchdowns.
Who did
But
they lose to did they lose to the Colts? Like who did they lose to in the 2014 playoffs? Because they didn't that was the AFC Championship game between the Patriots and the Colts, and now I'm like, damn, what were the Broncos up to that year? But either way, Gary Kubiak was a great offensive coach, and it feels like Clint is doing an incredible job in Seattle.
let's see, 2014, okay, they lost in the divisional round that year, and it was to, oh, yeah, you're right, it was to the Colts.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
It's weird
Colts
that we
didn't
don't
have a lot.
remember that. He lost to Andrew Luck. That would have been a crazy game.
Yeah, and it was 24-13. And it's like, and I was like,
They got their butts kicked.
yeah, and it's like I don't know. It's like certain teams and certain like in the back of like you were there, like it's like you're there for it. And then like someone asks you, oh, remember the game and it goes and it's not intentional. It's kinda like that's what I apologize to Peyton Manning's career. I shorted you 15 touchdowns, not 5 touchdowns. I shorted him a baker's dozen plus two. And I apologize. To
It
the
happens.
he
It
has a gold
happens,
jet.
you know?
He
I
does
mean,
commercials. He has Peyton.
he's
He has a golden
funny.
glove.
Yeah, his life is good. Peyton's life is
Yeah,
good.
he's fine.
He got his crazy neck surgery and took some HGH, had few more good years in him. Everything went well, and now, now he's beloved. And I love that for him. I love Peyton Manning now that he's retired. I can't Peyton's my guy. I mean, Tom Brady creeps me out. I love Peyton. You want to talk about the GOAT conversation, that's a different story. But if you want to talk about the GOAT of being on TV after you retire, that's Peyton Manning.
Yeah, because listen, I'm not gonna lie. The Tom Brady clone the dog thing. I'm like, like wasn't like. Listen, I love animals, but was that necessary? Didn't feel
No.
necessary. Like I
No, if
love
you love
animals.
animals, you should be adopting animals, not cloning your weird little
Exactly,
dog. Yeah.
exactly. Like I love. I'm not trying to listen. I love my cat. When it's my cat's time to, I'm not going and say, here's a bag of money. Like no. I gotta walk
Mm-mm.
around here that meow. It's gonna create. It's gonna the Twilight Zone.
Too
Then
much.
like, why is Darius walking from his house? He just walked down the road. It's like why? Because it feel weird to me. And John, echoing what we talked about with Jonathan Taylor, great player, straw that stirred the drink. Yeah, I got that. I think it was a Reggie Jackson quote. I got that from.
Yeah.
I cross sports for that. So
Oh,
I try to.
that's a Reggie Jackson quote. Nice. I
Yeah,
like
I
it.
think that he said it was the straw that stirred the drink. I think when they talked about like it was some kind of interview we did like back in the '70s, something like that. It's like he's the straw that stirs the drink. But,
Love it. I love it. I love that saying. It makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I think it could be really fun to finally switch it up at that. God, that award has gotten so stale. Unless they're giving it to Lamar and then it's not stale, it's perfect, right? That's
yeah, like if it's the Lamar, it's like
if they're doing Lamar, it's fine.
right. I used to feel that way about the Oscars. I'm like, if I see certain actors in it, like to me, Denzel Washington's my
Yeah.
like. I
If
thought
you
about
want to
like
give Denzel the best actor every year, not stale.
I'm, I'm
Perfect.
not
The
mad.
correct
I'm not
decision. The objectively right decision. But if you're going to
right.
start giving it to someone named Ryan every year, no. No.
Do
You
you-
want to give, you're going to keep giving it to Emma Stone? No. Denzel? Yes. Okay.
Emma Stone's a solid. She's a very solid.
I love
She,
Emma Stone, but I love Emma Stone, but I don't know how, I don't know that she needs to be nominated for Oscars every year. We live in a world where there is some really incredible acting, and I can't see her do another clowny Yorgos movie. I'm done. We need to move on from that. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's like there's certain ones where like, well, like usually I'm more of a like TV person. So if you have me watching a movie, like, oh, that means I'm really liking because I'm in more of a
Okay.
television.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm in like I still have to watch the recent season of Only Murders on the Bill. Like I'm still on that season.
I'm 2 seasons behind, I
It's
think.
great.
Oh,
Yeah,
maybe I'm only 1 season behind. Maybe I am just the new season behind. But either way, yeah, I've been slacking on that. Also, I just watched a Denzel movie last night. That
oh,
I'd never seen. The Little Things. It's from like
oh,
2021, and he's with it's with Rami Malek.
oh, Romney now. Huh.
And they are
That's good.
like, it's like an okay, like crime thriller kind of
Oh,
movie.
yeah, okay. I vaguely remember the trailer to that.
Yeah,
Like years ago, I
it
remember
was
like
on
yeah.
Netflix, and I was like, anytime there's a Denzel movie that I haven't seen and it's in one of those banners, I'm like, okay, I'm in. Like, I don't care. Well, oh no, I'm gonna waste 2 hours of my life watching Denzel. I'll be fine, you know. Um,
Right.
so it was fine. It was fine, but it was him and Rami Malek and like Jared Leto. Um, Definitely worth it to just like throw on when you're like just want to relax with a glass of wine, you know, that kind of movie.
I get that. I'm gonna start investing in one. I really am. I thought about it, like, what, Darius,
Gotta.
you can I'm like, just get some wine glasses, not that. But
Get the
I'm trying to,
stemless wine glasses though. No stems. You'll break them.
yeah, I'm a klutz. Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's gonna happen. Like, is it gonna happen? No, it's not if it's gonna happen, when it's gonna happen. So you
Mhm.
guys, So let's see, and Berto. Oh yeah. Oh, the Falcons thing. Listen, Berto. When she said that with the Falcons, it felt like because my guy's a CM Punk guy. So I'll bring up a memory that he likes. So it's kind of like when Paul Heyman did the low blow to Roman Reigns, and he did it to CM Punk.
Yeah.
Like that's straight up, like all forearms. Like my guy Paul Heyman hit the gym that day before the PLE and said, "You want me to do what? Say less," and went bam. So Berto, as a CM Punk, you being a CM, I hope that's a great memory for you. I don't remember who won that match. I don't. It doesn't matter who won, but
Sato. Well, I don't think there even was a
yeah, oh
winner,
no, he
probably.
did. No, oh yeah, he did. I was like, oh yeah, he won it. I remember because it was. I said if they do what I think they're gonna do,
Yeah.
I'm gonna love. And I don't like what they did. I don't like what Bruno. Anyway, my guy's doing fine. He's out for a while. He'll be fine. Be
He'll
fine.
be fine.
You got Becky Lynch. She's
No,
fine.
I mean, listen, it's not hate to like, the Falcons are just if you're gonna bring me on to have fun NFL discussion, the Falcons are
I
just not,
know.
they're not
I,
fun.
I understand.
But that's not
You
their
know,
fault.
yeah,
And
it's
and
right.
Atlanta fans want to talk about it, and that's fine. That you do
That's
that.
fine. No, I get it. I'll put that in my notes. You've been on the show a billion times, and that's on me because I host, like I do the booking. That's on me. No,
Someday they're going to be fun to talk about. Penix next year is going to break through. Everything's going to go well, and he's going to be great. And it's going to be awesome. And everybody's going to be like, "This is the best it's been since Matt Ryan." And then before that, it was Michael Vick. And everybody's going to be talking about it. And I'll get in on Falcons conversation then.
yeah, yeah, I'm going to write that down. Taking notes. Taking notes, America.
As soon
And,
as soon as that Falcons are 4-0 with Michael Penix, you give me a call.
oh yeah, I'm like, yeah. I know there's a time difference, but I have something to say.
Because I love Michael Penix. Like, I really am rooting for him. Like, I want that dude to work really bad. But I do fear it's going to take like probably a good offensive coach.
Yeah,
Um, certain teams just, it's funny
yeah.
because like the Patriots are so good at having defensive coaches. Like that, obviously they had a defensive coach for a really long time, and now they have Vrabel. And certain teams, like you see Mike McDonald, he's doing an incredible job, but he has an elite OC. Vrabel has an elite OC. Like you need an elite dude. Like obviously when the Falcons went to the Super Bowl, you had Dan Quinn, but you had Kyle Shanahan. Like you need like next level OCs with a high level defensive head coach for that to work, you know?
Yeah. And
I mean, those are the best combinations. Obviously, Andy Reid, nobody even talks about the fact that Andy Reid has Spags, who is that's like his McDaniels, right? And it's like
yeah,
that team's not what they are without Spags. They might have a ring or two, but they don't have 3 rings. They don't have 3 rings and 5 appearances without Spags.
right. And it's to your point. And I talked about though the previous show I was on. I talked about if you hire a defensive coach, they're having a plan to get a very good offensive coordinator. Because I've never, I guess I used to be the guy like hire a certain court. I believe that you hire the person for the job and they bring in the right staff. And we've seen that. Listen, when Mike McDonald, he brought in Clint Kubiak. You know, Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels comes back. To me, if the coach can bring in, especially if you're looking to develop a quarterback, either the head coach is offensive minded could do it, or you can bring in an elite, like to your point, an elite level coordinator to maximize the potential. And I talked about what Michael Penix at the press conference he had. I think it was like the other day, and he talked about like he essentially asked like outside coaches for
Yeah.
and it's like and
Mm,
I used the parable on the show. I used the parable talking about this man left the house to go get help somewhere else.
yeah.
This man is supposed to have all the ingredients in his house. And it's like, nah, I don't have enough. And he had to go somewhere else. It
Well, he
felt
obviously
like,
didn't have all the ingredients. He needed more.
yeah. And I'm like, and it
He
reminded
needed to go next door for a cup of sugar.
yeah. And hey, nothing wrong with that. I like
I
sugar,
mean,
so I'm probably
there's something wrong with it when someone's supposed to be stocking those goddamn cabinets for you and they're not stocked.
right. Well, that person should be fired. Yeah, that's what I would say. And I compared it to like I can kind of compare it to like Usher in the 2000s. Like you got to have rain, and it's like he's like looking out the window and it's raining, and it reminded me of like Usher and some of his music. Like basically 2000s like R&B, like music. Like even if it's not raining in a music video, I don't know if I'm convinced.
Yeah,
I don't know if I don't know
that's
if I'm
super
sold.
valid.
And it's like I used to be like with Usher, like when they did the Burn video, and I see, well, I just made burning down palm trees, and I'm like, I watched the video, I'm like, oh, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Like 2000s, like music videos, I don't question the creativity. Like now, it's not about music. Like music videos used to be a thing where it's like all about the creativity and you put in the work. And I'd say like Usher was one of those guys. Like even when he did, yeah, it's like it was like this out there, he was doing like it was good. It was good. But before we get out of here, I would be remiss and would not be doing my job. I don't know if I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. But I would be doing justice if I didn't talk about John Cena. I would not be doing my part, and because I guess what I'll say about John Cena and get your thoughts. Like, and I always say appreciate greatness, no matter the sport. As like I said, no matter how you feel about LeBron, that's greatness. Appreciate greatness. And before we get out of here, because the Denzel conversation went over, and listen for Denzel, for Denzel, it happens. Hey, Denzel, if you're listening, or what? Listen, hey, he's the one actor I think of is like he hasn't made a terrible movie. Every movie he's watched is watchable. I'll put it that way. There's people like there's some where I just go no. Denzel, yeah, I'm in. What's the movie? I don't care. Listen. He can be Othello, okay? He can be. I don't care what he's doing.
You just said you went over on the Denzel convo, then went on another Denzel rant.
It happens. It happens. It happens. But back to John Cena.
John Cena.
Back to John Cena. Sorry, the love for Denzel is real. Um, but you know, when I look at Denzel, I'm not Denzel. Look at John Cena.
John
Sorry,
Cena.
Denzel. Jesus, this could be a great show to look at afterwards. I'm not even going to watch it. You know what? I'll watch your parts and I'll cut my parts out. When with John Cena, I don't know if you still watch wrestling. I don't know because it's been a while since we talked about wrestling. I think it's been a minute.
Yeah, I've been checked out for a bit. I have been I've been checking in on clips and stuff. I'm not regularly watching SmackDown and Raw the way that I was. And I'm kind of disillusioned with like where things are going with the company, but
Yeah.
I still stay in the loop on who has the titles, what's going on, and I see match highlights, things like that. And obviously, John's got his final match coming up, so, you know.
So my question is, where do you? Well, I'll ask maybe a question that's obvious, and then maybe where do you place John Cena all time? Because they call him the GOAT, and I think he's the GOAT. I think for a multitude of reasons, I think he's the GOAT, not just for in the ring, but out of the ring as well, for what he's done for the company. But how do you perceive John Cena's career? Do you have a favorite like moment? Do you have like a moment from his career where you're like that is your favorite moment from his career, or is it just like the totality of his career that you
Yeah. I think, well, I mean, I think that the fact that he's spanned the generation that he has spanned, I think the fact that he wrestled so meaningfully in this last year in a way that I didn't expect is sort of the icing on the cake. Like, if there was any doubt that like you could make an argument for somebody else or blah 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 or whatever, like the amount of wrestlers we've seen wrestle into their 50s and 60s, just statues, just forcing us to like watch them be in the ring, just boring ass shit. Hulk Hogan and all these dudes who just would just go in there and do nothing and live off of legacy. For him to not do that, for him to come in and actually wrestle as much as he possibly could and put on like actual long bangers of matches that put it over the edge for me to like see, as somebody who went in and out of just like kind of paying attention to wrestling, like growing, like, high school and whatever else, like, and then through my early adulthood, I wasn't regularly watching wrestling until, you know, um, like 5.5 years ago. So John Cena has always been like a dude who's coming back, like since I've been watching regularly. And I think that when you're like pervasive in the culture the way that you are as a representative of the thing that you do, it's really hard to argue against it. And when WWE it is a sport, they are wrestling, they are athletes, they put their bodies on the line, but it is about storytelling at the end of the day. It is more about storytelling than anything else. It is a soap opera, it is television, it is creating characters that people care about. And you just cannot argue the impact that he's had in that way. It's just not arguable. It is cross age, it is cross race, it is cross nationality, it is cross, where you live in the world. And I think he doesn't have to be your favorite wrestler, but to say that he's not the most important, greatest, like most accomplished at the job of being a WWE superstar is inarguable. Um, and for me, like the Cena moments that stand out the most are, I mean, there's old school stuff with him and The Rock that really stand out to me when he was young. Um, I really loved, and I don't know how wrestling fans would feel about this, but I really loved the Summer of Cena when he had his matches with Roman Reigns. Or those, he had that match with Roman Reigns and he was building up to it and they were cutting all those promos and he was just doing like, he knew he was going to lose. We knew he was going to lose. I mean, some people didn't know he was going to lose, but he sold his belief that he was going to win the title, that he was going to beat Roman Reigns so effectively that like there was a part of me that was like, is he going to beat Roman Reigns? Because it was the character. It was all I need is 1, 2, 3. All I need is that. It's all I need. I don't need to be better than you. I don't need to out wrestle you. I just need to find one spot. And he sold it so beautifully. And I think it was a really good encapsulation of how much he cared about wrestling still, even in the middle of like filming all of these, Marvel movies and whatever, or superhero movies, the everything that he's got going on. He was still so invested in the narrative of this like very historic run that he was able to be a part of. Like you could tell he was honored by it. And I think that's something I really remember them like that really sticks out to me about watching John Cena in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah. And I'll just say this before we get out of here. To me, like the totality of John Cena's work, like I'll be the first person to admit it took me a while to come around on thugonomics. It took me a while. Like I understood it, but it's like it took me
Well,
a while.
it was a little bit of a time. There's a reason thugonomics ain't around anymore.
Right, exactly. Because even then, I was like, I guess mixed is the best, mixed feelings on it. But what I grew to appreciate about Cena is something you said. He was always about the business, and he had no problem putting over the people he was willing to put over. And that's what to me the business is about. He was willing to put over like Roman Reigns. I argue that maybe that was the catapult that led to Roman Reigns having probably the longest championship run we're ever going to see. We ain't going to see nothing like that for a minute. And it's just like his impact on everything in the business, like even the Make a Wish, like his impact and his representation of the company to me stands out. Like as much as great his work in the ring, like to me, his greatest rival to me, like I would love him to see him to face Edge one more time. I
Oh, I
thought
would love
him and
that. I love Edge, but I don't think we're getting it.
yeah, we're not like a part of me says I'm like I know because he works at the other place, so we're not going to get that. But it's like, man, I would love if that would have been his final match. I have an idea what his final match who is going to be against. I have an idea because it makes sense,
Hmm.
and I think it's like a part of me says it's going to be against Sheamus
Who?
because Sheamus
Sheamus.
because I think and I read about it and then I even looked back and I sat down and thought about it and I said it would make sense because Cena won the Intercontinental Championship, completing a Grand Slam, becoming a Grand Slam champion. And the only belt that Sheamus is missing is the Intercontinental Champion as well, for him being a Grand Slam champion. And I say, I think we'll get that at
Oh,
Saturday
he could give him the Grand Slam on his way out. That's very Cena coded. That'd be actually really fucking awesome.
I think somehow, some way we get there, and it would just fit.
I love that. I love that. You know what? I'm preparing to watch my champions tonight play Thursday Night Football. So
Exactly. So to get you out of here,
get me out
I'll
of
get
here.
you out of here. Get me out of here. All right.
I'm just-
Where's the keys? I put them over there. Oh, wait. Oh, it's in the kitchen. Yeah, it's a cue. Yeah, it's in the kitchen, guys. I'm sorry. Oh, he's in the kitchen. Ha ha ha. Very funny. Yeah, I know. I'm 6'4". Husky guy. Yeah, of course he's in the kitchen. So I probably left to go to the store. But anyway, before we get you out of here, tell where the amazing people can find you. And by the way, if you're not following her amazing commentary, you're missing out on fantastic stuff. So that's
yeah.
but tell the amazing people who are listening and watching where they can find you and you do your thing with your extensive resume.
Yeah, no, you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Threads. I post on those every day, and follow me there, and I will interact. I'm in the comment sections. I'm active. Still slowly but surely working on the revamp of Almost Shameless. We had it ready to go at the end of September, and then it all fell through. But the Almost Shameless podcast will be coming back at some point, so you can go to where you listen to podcasts, follow the feed so that you're ready to go for when new episodes come out. And that's the update.
Listen, not to promote. Listen, I was lucky to be on an episode a while. So if you guys want to listen to my episode, I'm not being selfish.
No,
All the episodes are great of Almost Shameless. They're all great. They're all great.
listen to LaDarius. Yeah, skip through and find the LaDarius ones.
You see my name? Go bam. Just stop. Yeah. I'm gonna say collaborate and listen. I'm not trying to get a lawsuit, but once again, Tanya Ray Fox, thank you so much for joining me. As always, we got to do this again really soon.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. I know it took me a little bit to get back on. Things have been crazy, but I'm back in the mix now, so I appreciate it. And we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. And friends and future friends, that's the Sports in the World podcast. I'm LaDarius. Until you hear me again next time, I just said my name again. Be real, be you, be blessed, and be safe. Yeah, this is the first time I screw up the outro. There goes my Cal Ripken streak right there, right out the window. Be real, be blessed, and be safe. All here from the Sports and the World podcast.